need for you to be truthful. So if it doesn't capture you, but then later he said, well, maybe it's just not what I want it to be. Maybe it's accurate and it's not what I want it to say. I said, well, that is only something you can decide. I can't possibly know that. You'll have to make that decision. So in general, or specifically, each of you, was it high level of accuracy in the overview? First 3 pages, that's all I'm talking about right now.
Yes.
Yes?
I would say 95%.
Okay. Okay. So pretty accurate. We need to, sit and visit if not. I'm real serious about
I'd probably
that.
take his math. It's probably 90%.
Because the reason I'm saying, I'm not trying to convince you to say that either, please. I really need for it to be accurate for you. If you'll stay with me for just a minute, just put your stuff down for a minute, everybody. Okay, thanks. The reason it's important, the accuracy is important, is because this company, as you well know, everybody is taking this. Brett is very engaged in this kind of learning, if you will. And if it's not accurate, and this information is shared with anyone, and you don't tell me it's not accurate, and we don't sit down and try and figure this out or have you retake, then that's what's out there. That's what people will assume, especially if you want your copy sent electronically and you want to give some of this stuff to people. It will be inaccurate information, all right? So I'm really, really serious about you needing to say, or to reread. If you need to do that, that's absolutely fine. And if you reread and you start underlining, now one little less scientific way to determine some level of accuracy is this. For those of you who might be on the fence, Scott, Lewis? Okay. Those of you who might be on the fence, if you are, to take the overview and underline complete sentences or a complete thought. And what I'm trying to get you to understand is not just go through and say, well, this word, all right, or this kind of thing doesn't work for me. And we can look at those and then look at the rest of the profile and see if there's some reason why that's showing up. Sometimes it's just one word that you substitute. You say, oh, well, that works, yes. Because, again, it's UK. Sometimes the UK have an emphasis on the word differently than we will. And it just totally... it can actually, yes, totally misstate the statement for you, and then you change that word for yourself. And, okay. So think about that, because it really is, if it's not accurate, it's a waste, it's garbage. You might as well throw it out. And we're looking for a very high level of accuracy. Okay, whether it's representative of 4 colors or 64 colors is not something we have the time to get into in here. So we're looking at simply 4 today. Actually went through some training yesterday. I was looking at what we call Team Wheel. It has all of them on it. It's amazing stuff. So we'll go from there then to a page that looks like this, if you will. It's called your Insights Color Dynamics. It will not have this. You'll just have this. And it's your next to your last page now. Okay, we used to have another page on there.
The blank page.
Yes. So we used to have Jungian preferences on that last page. They've just taken it off, so I'm still not used to it. Because this is based, by the way, if you're familiar with him, then the assessment is based on the work of a psychologist by the name of Carl Jung. His research also developed another assessment that is pretty well known today. However, the MBTI is not truly, we can talk about this offline, you may find it interesting. There's some variations. The JP scale is not Jungian. The interpretation of MBTI, which I used for years, was very much about IMA, ENFJ, or INTJ, okay? And in essence, you're familiar with it, you're one of the 16 if you're smart in different situations. So, some of the things that weren't accurate for that. So actually, I was in my training yesterday, I asked them why they pulled it, and Insights has pulled it because they couldn't get, for them, the validity and reliability they wanted on the sensing and intuition. Good on the thinking, feeling, and introvert, extroverted, and they said we just can't go with it. So we're going to substitute with something else. So that used to be on that last page. Okay, sorry, but that was interesting because most people don't know. So. Okay, so you're looking at this. So if we can look at your conscious persona, which is your graph on the left, and some of you may have already figured this out, the highest percentage, or if you visually look at the bar that's going up, obviously, is the energy that you lead with. So I want each of you then to look at that. If you've agreed that your profile, your overview is fairly accurate for you, or a lot accurate for you, then you would put yours. So you lead with red, okay, and you have blue on top. So you see your graph, very high red energy. The second is blue, third is yellow, and the fourth is green. So you want to put them in that order. Yeah, yours is blue, red, green, right?
All right. Very good.
Yours is yellow, red, and blue, green. Okay, so how many of you changed a little bit, and were you surprised? You did? Yeah? What was your change?
No, my second and third change.
Okay, second and third. Okay.
My third, fourth switched.
All right. Okay.
Wow.
But which is actually funny, considering it's 100% different than what the perception around the table is.
And
Really?
that's amazing. See, that's what's really interesting about that. We did it kind of quickly in the exercise, because why is this important if what you chose and what you have decided through the actual profile, what if it's very different than
Because
the
that's the perception we have of him.
Exactly.
Not
Why is that important? I know that's what it
because he
is.
sees himself one way and we see him another.
Why
way.
is that important?
Because we have filters and they don't.
And why is that important?
Because
We treat people as we see them. So this could be confusing to someone who's sitting here saying, well, I see myself as this. We don't use those words and you wouldn't in interaction, but okay, I see myself as this. And why is someone treating me like that? Why are they behaving like that? Because we treat people as we perceive people. That's why this is that's why this is an interesting exercise, and why, guys, why I like to bring Larry, Brett, and Dave into it, and that's why they get a kick out of it, because then they can look at that and realize that some of the organizations see them very differently than who they are as people, and that's how you will interact with them, or they can interact with you. So it really is a good exercise. It's really very simple. It seems kind of stupid sometimes doing it, but when you get it back and you see how your colleagues may see you very differently than you see yourself, then you can sometimes understand how the interactions might go like this. Yes.
so what if everybody is like right on the dot?
Well, then they see you as you are.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. And let me see your profile. Yeah, not surprising. Okay. Because your conscious and less conscious are very similar. You can see the footprint circle underneath. Let me just get back on track. But the more we no, it's fine. But so if you're looking at this, your conscious persona is what we call you with your mask on, your controlled self. It's how you have decided in a really conscious way, that's why it's called conscious persona, to show up for work. Okay? It's your more controlled self. It's how you are. Now, some of us are conscious and less conscious are very different. Some of you, they are very much the same. So we'll talk about that in a second, but that's the conscious persona. Okay? The less conscious is what's left over, is the easiest way. I know how to say that. There's many ways to interpret that. But let me take a step back for a moment. If you will look at the percentages, either here or on your own graphs, your conscious and less conscious, I will prove to you that both of these represent you in totality. Look at the percentage under your cool blue bar graph. Have I talked too fast for you to, or do you remember what I said about opposites and stuff? What would be the opposite you think of cool blue?
Yellow.
Oh, great, excellent, thank you. Sunshine yellow. You take the percentage under the blue graph on the conscious persona and add it to the yellow percentage under the less conscious graph. What happens?
It would equal 100%.
It'll go all the way across that way. If you took these, and actually the new slides I went through yesterday actually has them are on top. So they have these bouncing over here, which really is neat. I don't have them yet. And it shows then how these bar graphs on top of this make a whole picture. So the less conscious is still part of who we are as we answer the questions, and it's of course determined, what is here is determined by how we answer the 25 or 100 work days.
So then for, let's say, the second group, so my second group was just having red. That
Okay.
would go with
The green.
the third
Uh-huh.
group here.
No, not the
Oh,
third,
the
but it's just opposites.
Yeah,
So
they're
blue,
dynamic opposites are.
Right.
These two
Right.
and those two.
So
Yep.
the question here we took gives an insight to how we think we are and how we perceive other people to see us, which are should be directly opposed to each other.
well, it doesn't tell you that, but what it does in your profile, it gives you an opposite. Yes. So it does then, it says, okay, for Madeline, if I'm extroverted thinking, my opposite's going to be, in simple terms, introverted feeling. So that's going to show up on that page of your direct opposite, or it's actually called your opposite type. That's the second tier I talked about this morning. Okay, so you will have a picture of that. This is simply a picture of you, though. Both of these represent you. That's why I wanted to show you the numerical aspect of that. If you go all the way across from your conscious to your less conscious and add up those percentages, it will always add to 100%. Does that make sense? Okay, then we get into this preference flow. A little bit more. Well, let me go back to these. These are bigger, so this is easier to talk about. By the way, you see the three either here or on your own profile, Discovery. You see that three. Anything above. This is really a very bad example. It's a bad example, actually, but. Most of you in here, does anybody have just one? I don't think there is. Anybody who just has one bar graph above that three? In the conscious, in the conscious. Oops, hold on. Right here, in this one.
No.
Okay, I didn't think anybody does. That would be called focus, and we'll talk about in a minute. But having said that, any of your energies that you have above that three or that midpoint, you are inclined to use and use with very little effort. Again, it's what you've decided. This is how I show up for work, by how you answer the questions. Any energies below the line, you're less inclined to use. You're a bit more reluctant to use those energies. It doesn't value whether you use them well or not. It's not about that. It's just there's a reluctance to use those energies. Not measuring good or bad on either case, up or down. Okay? There's a reluctance to use those that are under the midpoint line, and there's an inclined usage, if you will, to use the ones above. Make sense? Okay, I'm going to get there, but I want to make sure. Sometimes I talk kind of fast and I don't give people time to breathe.